A quiet Omega's twins bear impossible silver eyes. The Alpha King denies them. But when royal powers awaken in the children, secrets darker than rejection begin to surface, and the truth will shatter everything. Hello, my beautiful pack. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this absolutely heart-wrenching story, tell me, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. How are you doing today? And here's the big question, have you subscribed yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now because you do not want to miss how the story unfolds. Trust me, this one will have you on the edge of your seat. Now, let's jump right in. The blood came first. Alara's hand shook as she gripped the examination table, her vision blurring at the edges. The pack doctor wouldn't meet her eyes. He never did anymore. Not since the Alpha King stood before the entire Shadow Moon pack 6 years ago and declared, with ice in his voice, that he had never touched her. Miss Thorne, the results are clear. Dr. Vance's voice carried that familiar tone of pity mixed with disgust. Your children's recent blood work shows markers we've never seen before. Not in Omegas. Not in Betas. Not even in most Alphas. Alara's heart hammered against her ribs. She knew what was coming. She'd known for weeks, ever since her twins, Kale and Lyra, turned 6 and their eyes began to glow silver in moments of strong emotion. Silver like moonlight on frost. Silver like the eyes of only one bloodline in the entire werewolf world. The royal bloodline. What kind of markers? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Dr. Vance finally looked at her, and what she saw in his expression made her blood run cold. Not pity this time. Fear. Markers that shouldn't exist in children born from an Omega and, he paused, his lip curling slightly, whatever human drifter you claimed fathered them. I never said their father was human. Alara's fingers dug into the padded table. I said their father was the Alpha King. The doctor's laugh was sharp and cruel. Yes. You and half the desperate Omegas in the territory. The difference is, most of them have the sense not to name their bastards after their delusions. Alara wanted to scream. Wanted to shift right there in the sterile medical room and show him what happened when you pushed a mother too far. But she couldn't. She had to think of Kale and Lyra, waiting for her in the apartment on the edge of Pack Lands, in the section reserved for the lowest-ranking wolves. The section where they'd been forced to live ever since that night. The night that had changed everything. The night Alpha King Theron had looked at her with eyes that burned gold, pulled her into the darkness of the moonlit forest during the lunar ceremony, and marked her soul in ways that had nothing to do with the traditional mating bite. The night he'd whispered her name like a prayer and a curse all at once. The night that, according to him and the entire pack, had never happened. These markers, Dr. Vance continued, pulling out a tablet and turning it toward her. The screen showed 2 DNA profiles, Kale's and Lyra's, lit up with sequences highlighted in red. They indicate abilities far beyond normal wolf capabilities. Specifically, the kind of abilities mentioned only in the oldest texts about the original royal line. Abilities that haven't manifested in anyone for 300 years. Alara's mouth went dry. What kind of abilities? The kind that will get your children killed if word gets out to the other packs. Dr. Vance leaned forward, and for the first time, she saw genuine concern beneath his contempt. I'm required to report these findings to the Alpha King within 24 hours. It's pack law. But I'm giving you this warning now, take those children and run. Tonight. Because when Theron sees this data, one of 2 things will happen. Either he'll have them executed as threats to his throne, or every rival pack within 1,000 miles will come hunting for them. The room tilted. Alara gripped the table harder, her nails shifting into claws before she could stop them. You're lying. You have to be lying. I wish I were. The doctor stood, and she noticed his hand trembling as he set down the tablet. Your children aren't just powerful, Miss Thorne. According to these results, they're potentially the most powerful wolves born in centuries. And power like that, in children everyone believes are fatherless bastards? He shook his head. You've made enemies just by existing. But this? This will make you targets. Alara forced herself to breathe. In through her nose, out through her mouth. The way her own mother had taught her before the fever took her. Before Alara became truly alone in the world. Before that night when the Alpha King had looked at her like she was the only star in his sky. Before he destroyed her. I want copies of everything, she said quietly. Every test. Every result. Every marker you found. That's not. I want them, or I go straight to the council and tell them the pack doctor is threatening the life of an Omega and her children. Her voice turned to steel. See how that plays with your precious reputation. Dr. Vance's jaw tightened, but he nodded. 5 minutes later, Alara walked out of the clinic with a flash drive burning a hole in her pocket and a truth she could no longer deny burning a hole in her chest. The apartment smelled like burnt oatmeal and broken dreams. Alara pushed through the door, her heart still racing from the clinic, and found her twins exactly where she'd left them, Cale at the small kitchen table with his nose buried in a book 3 grade levels above what he should be reading, and Lyra curled on the threadbare couch, sketching in her notebook with fierce concentration. They looked up simultaneously when she entered, and Alara's breath caught the way it always did when she saw those eyes. Silver. Luminous. Impossible. Cale's were sharp and analytical, constantly observing, measuring, calculating. Lyra's held a depth that seemed to see straight through to your soul. Both were too knowing for 6-year-olds. Both marked them as different in a pack that despised different. Mama, you're scared. Lyra set down her pencil, her small face creased with worry. I can feel it. Of course she could. That was another thing that had started recently. Lyra's empathic abilities had begun manifesting 3 weeks ago. She could sense emotions like most people sense temperature changes. Another impossibility. Another secret Alara had been desperately trying to hide. I'm fine, little moon. Alara forced a smile and crossed to kiss Lyra's forehead, then Cale's. How was your day? Marcus Grayson called Lyra a bastard again. Cale's voice was flat, factual, but his small hands had curled into fists. I made his nose bleed. Alara closed her eyes. Cale, we talked about this. He made Lyra cry. Cale looked up at her, and the fierce protectiveness in his 6-year-old face made him look ancient. Nobody makes my sister cry. And then Cale got detention, and Mrs. Frost said maybe if we had a proper father, we'd learn proper discipline. Lyra's voice was small, wounded. She said you're a liar who trapped yourself with bastard children, and that's why we'll never amount to anything. The flash drive in Alara's pocket suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She knelt between her children, gathering them close despite Cale's initial resistance. He was growing harder, more closed off with each passing insult, each cruel word. Lyra was growing more fragile, more desperate to please people who would never accept her. Listen to me. Alara pulled back enough to look into both their faces. What Mrs. Frost said, what Marcus said, what anyone in this pack says about us, it doesn't define who you are. Do you understand me? But is it true? Cale's silver eyes bored into hers. Are we bastards? Did our father really not want us? The question was a knife between her ribs. How many times had they asked? How many times had she tried to explain the unexplainable? That their father was the most powerful wolf in the territory. That he had wanted her, desperately, for one perfect night. That something had happened, something dark and twisted, that made him deny everything. Your father is complicated. It was the same answer she always gave, and she hated herself for it. But you two are not mistakes. You are brilliant and powerful and exactly who you're meant to be. Kids at school say we're freaks. Lyra's fingers twisted in her shirt. They say our eyes are weird. That we're cursed. They're afraid of what they don't understand. I don't understand either. Cale pulled away, standing up with his small shoulders squared. I don't understand why we can do things other kids can't. Why I can hear people's heartbeats from across the room. Why Lyra knows what everyone's feeling. Why our eyes glow when we're upset. His voice cracked. Why we're so different, Mama. Alara's throat tightened. They deserved the truth. They'd always deserved it. But the truth could get them killed. Because you're special, she whispered. Because you come from a bloodline that goes back centuries, to the first wolves who ever walked these lands. The royal bloodline. Kale's words weren't a question. Alara's heart stopped. What? I've been reading, Mama. Every book in the pack library about wolf history, about bloodlines, about powers. Kale's silver eyes gleamed with an intelligence far beyond his years. The only wolves who ever had silver eyes were the original royal family. The only wolves who ever had empathic abilities were royal line omegas. The only wolves who ever had enhanced senses like mine were royal line alphas. He paused. Our father is the Alpha King, isn't he? The silence in the small apartment was deafening. Lyra's eyes went wide. King Theron? The scary one who lives in the big mansion? He's not scary, Alara said automatically, then caught herself. To everyone else, Theron was terrifying. Cold. Ruthless. Untouchable. But that night in the forest, he'd been different. Vulnerable. Almost broken. He'd held her like she was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. But he says he doesn't know you. Lyra's voice trembled. At the pack meetings, when people whisper and point at us, he never even looks our way. I know, baby. Why? Tears spilled down Lyra's cheeks. If we're his, why doesn't he want us? Because something happened. Alara pulled her daughter close again. Something I don't fully understand. But I promise you, one day, the truth will come out. When? Kale demanded. When we're dead? When the other packs find out what we can do and hunt us down? Alara froze. What do you know about other packs? I hear things. The adults think we're too young to understand, but I hear them. Kale's jaw set in a way that reminded her painfully of Theron. There are rumors. About Omega children with silver eyes. About rivals looking for weaknesses in the Alpha King's bloodline. He swallowed hard, about children being killed. The flash drive burned in her pocket. Dr. Vance's warning echoed in her mind. Take those children and run. Tonight. But where could they run? They had no money, no allies, no pack that would shelter them. And if what Dr. Vance said was true, if Kale and Lyra's powers were just beginning to manifest, running might only make them more vulnerable. There was only one option left. The most dangerous option. Get your things, Alara said quietly. Only what you can carry. We're going somewhere tonight. Where? Lyra clutched her notebook. Alara looked at both her children, at the silver eyes that marked them as something extraordinary, and made a choice that would change everything. We're going to see your father. The Alpha King's mansion loomed against the night sky like a fortress built to keep the world out. Alara stood at the iron gates with her children pressed against her sides, their small backpacks clutched in trembling hands. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, to run, to protect her twins from the rejection that was surely coming. But Dr. Vance's warning kept echoing in her mind. 24 hours. That's all she had before the test results reached Theron officially. Before the decision would be taken out of both their hands. Mama, I'm scared. Lyra's empathic abilities were working overtime. Alara could feel her daughter drowning in the fear radiating from all three of them. Be brave, little moon. Alara pressed the intercom button before she could lose her nerve. Just a little longer. The speaker crackled to life. State your business. The voice was cold, professional, belonging to one of Theron's guards. I need to speak with Alpha King Theron. It's urgent. A pause. Then a laugh, sharp and dismissive. The Alpha King doesn't take visitors. Especially not at 10 o'clock at night. Come back during official pack hours and file a formal request. Tell him Alara Thorne is here with his children. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. When the guard spoke again, his voice had changed. Wait there. Kale tugged on her sleeve. Mama, there are wolves in the shadows. 6 of them. All armed. Alara's heart lurched. How can you possibly know that? I can hear their breathing. Their heartbeats. I can smell the silver bullets in their guns. Kale's silver eyes swept the darkness surrounding the gates. They're afraid of us. Before Alara could respond, the massive gates swung open with a groan of metal on metal. A figure emerged from the shadows of the mansion's entrance, moving with the predatory grace that only an alpha possessed. But it wasn't Theron. Beta Marcus Cole stopped 10 feet away, his expression a mixture of disgust and something that looked almost like pity. Alara recognized him from pack meetings. He was Theron's right hand, his most trusted advisor, and according to rumor, the one who'd convinced Theron to publicly deny her 6 years ago. "You have a lot of nerve showing up here," Marcus said. His eyes flicked to the twins, and something flashed across his face too quickly for Alara to read. The Alpha King was clear. "He wants nothing to do with you or your children. Then he can tell me that himself." Alara stepped forward, pulling Kale and Lyra with her. "I'm not leaving until he does. You'll leave now, or I'll have the guards remove you forcibly." "Go ahead." Alara's voice was steel. "Forcibly remove an Omega and her 6-year-old children from the Alpha King's gates. I'm sure the pack will love hearing about that at the next gathering." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "I want 5 minutes. That's all. 5 minutes of his time, and then we'll leave and never bother him again." "Mama, someone else is coming." Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "Someone powerful. I can feel his emotions from here. He's angry. So angry. But underneath, he's terrified." The air shifted. Alara felt it in her bones, that electric charge that signaled a truly dominant alpha's approach. The same charge she'd felt that night in the forest when Theron had found her crying by the moonlit creek, when he'd asked her why she was alone, when everything had spiraled into something neither of them could control. Then he was there. Theron Blackwood, Alpha King of the Shadow Moon Pack, stepped out of the mansion's grand entrance, and Alara's breath caught the way it always did when she saw him. 6.5 feet of pure muscle and power, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and eyes that burned gold in the moonlight. He was beautiful in the way a storm was beautiful, dangerous, and untamed and utterly captivating. He stopped at the top of the steps, his gaze fixed on Alara with an intensity that made her knees weak. For a moment, just a moment, she saw something flicker in those golden eyes. Recognition. Longing. Pain. Then it was gone, replaced by cold indifference. "I thought I made myself clear 6 years ago." His voice was ice and gravel. "I don't know you. I've never touched you. Whatever delusion you're living in, it ends now. Look at them." Alara pushed Kale and Lyra forward gently. "Look at your children and tell me you don't see yourself in their faces." Theron's eyes dropped to the twins for the first time, and Alara watched his entire body go rigid. The color drained from his face. His hands clenched at his sides so hard she heard his knuckles crack. Because Kale had his jawline, his proud bearing, his analytical intensity. And Lyra had his high cheekbones, his elegant bone structure, his devastating beauty. But most of all, they both had those silver eyes. The eyes that marked the royal bloodline. The eyes that couldn't be faked or explained away. No, the word came out strangled. Theron took a step back. "No, this is impossible." "Is it?" Alara pulled out the flash drive. "Because the pack doctor seems to think otherwise. Their DNA shows markers that only exist in one bloodline. Your bloodline. Abilities that are already manifesting. Powers that will make them targets for every rival pack in the territory." "Mama," Kale whispered urgently. His heart rate just spiked. He's about to either run or attack. Theron's gaze snapped to Kale. "What did you just say?" "I said your heart rate spiked from 72 beats per minute to 135. Kale's voice was steady despite his fear. "You're experiencing an acute stress response. Fight or flight. Your cortisol levels are elevated, and your hands are starting to shift." Theron stared at the 6-year-old boy like he was seeing a ghost. Then his eyes moved to Lyra, who was trembling but holding her ground. "You're scared," Lyra said softly. "Not of us. Of yourself. You're scared because you remember something you're not supposed to remember. Something someone made you forget." The world seemed to stop. Theron swayed on his feet, his hand shooting out to grip the railing for support. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Your memories." Lyra's silver eyes glowed brighter. "Someone took them. Someone powerful. I can feel the emptiness where they should be, like a hole in your heart. Marcus moved forward quickly. Alpha, you need to go inside. Now. This is clearly some kind of trick. But Theron wasn't listening. He was staring at Lyra with an expression of dawning horror and recognition, like pieces of a puzzle he didn't know existed were suddenly slamming into place. The night of the lunar ceremony, he whispered. 6.5 years ago. I can't remember it. I've never been able to remember it. Alara's heart stopped. What? I remember the ceremony starting. I remember the moon rising. Then nothing. Just darkness. When I woke up the next morning, hours were missing. Theron's voice was raw, broken. I thought I'd blacked out from the power surge during the moon's peak. But you're saying that something else happened. Someone did this to me. Someone made you forget me, Alara breathed. Made you forget us. And suddenly, the 6 years of denial, the public humiliation, the cruel rejection, it all made a terrible kind of sense. Theron hadn't abandoned them because he didn't care. He'd abandoned them because he couldn't remember they ever existed. Theron's knees buckled. Marcus caught him before he hit the ground, but the Alpha King shoved him away with a snarl that made even his own guards step back. Get inside, Theron growled at Alara and the twins. Now. Before anyone else sees you. Alpha, this is insane, Marcus protested. You can't seriously believe that someone manipulated your memories. These could be witch children, sent here to trick you, to weaken your position. They have silver eyes, Marcus. Theron's voice was deadly quiet. Silver eyes. When was the last time you saw silver eyes in any bloodline other than mine? Marcus's mouth opened, then closed. He had no answer. Alara didn't wait for him to find one. She ushered Cale and Lyra through the gates and up the sweeping stone steps into a mansion that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, tapestries that depicted the pack's 300-year history. Everything she and her children had been denied. Everything that should have been theirs. A housekeeper appeared, her eyes widening at the sight of the Omega and her children. Alpha King, shall I prepare rooms? The East Wing, Theron said without looking at her. And send for Elena. Tell her I need her here immediately. The housekeeper scurried away. Theron led them into a massive study lined with books and dominated by a fireplace large enough to stand in. He poured himself a drink with shaking hands, downed it in one swallow, then poured another. Sit, he ordered. Alara sat on a leather couch, keeping Cale and Lyra close. Her son's eyes were cataloging everything in the room with frightening speed. Her daughter was staring at Theron with an intensity that made Alara nervous. He's not bad, Lyra whispered. He's broken. Someone hurt him really badly, Mama. His emotions are all twisted up like thorns. Theron spun around. Stop doing that. Stop reading me. I can't help it. Lyra's lower lip trembled. Your feelings are really loud. For a moment, Theron looked utterly lost. Then he set down his glass and crossed to kneel in front of the twins, bringing himself to their eye level. Up close, the resemblance was undeniable. Cale had his nose, his firm chin. Lyra had his elegant hands, his high forehead. What are your names? His voice was gentler now, uncertain in a way Alara had never heard from him. Cale, her son said warily. Cale Thorne. Lyra Thorne, her daughter whispered. Thorne, Theron repeated, and something dark crossed his face. Not Blackwood. You denied us, Cale said flatly. Why would Mama give us your name? The words hit like a physical blow. Theron flinched, and Alara saw the exact moment his carefully constructed walls began to crack. I don't remember denying you, he said slowly. I don't remember your mother at all. But if what your sister says is true, if someone really did take my memories, then I need to know everything. He looked up at Alara. Tell me what happened that night. Every detail. Alara's hands twisted in her lap. She'd relived that night 1,000 times in her mind, but never thought she'd have to describe it to him. It was the lunar ceremony. The night when unmated wolves gather to honor the moon goddess and pray for their destined mates. I know what the ceremony is. You were different that night. Distracted. You kept looking at the forest like something was calling you. Alara's voice dropped. I was by the creek, crying because it was my third ceremony alone. My mother had just died, and I had no one. You found me there. You asked why I was crying. I told you I felt invisible, like I didn't matter to anyone. Theron's breathing had gone shallow. What did I say? You said you understood. That being Alpha King meant everyone saw the crown but nobody saw you. That you were the loneliest person in the pack. Alara's eyes burned with unshed tears. Then you kissed me. And everything changed. This is ridiculous, Marcus interrupted from the doorway. Alpha, she could be making this entire story up. You can't trust the word of an Omega who's been claiming you fathered her bastards for 6 years. They're not bastards, Kale snarled, his small body vibrating with rage. His eyes began to glow brighter, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Don't ever call us that again. The windows rattled. Books flew off the shelves. The fireplace roared to life with flames that burned silver instead of orange. Everyone froze. Impossible, Marcus breathed. Elemental manipulation. That ability died out 2 centuries ago. Theron stared at his son, at the power radiating from the 6-year-old boy, and Alara watched understanding dawn in his golden eyes. You're not just royal bloodline. You're pure royal bloodline. Undiluted. Which means your mother would have to be a direct descendant of the original Omega lines. My mother's maiden name was Moonshadow, Alara said quietly. Before she mated with my father and took his name. The color drained from Marcus's face. Moonshadow. The royal Omega line that was supposedly extinct. Not extinct. Theron stood slowly, his eyes fixed on Alara like he was seeing her for the first time. Hidden. Protected. Because their bloodline was too valuable, too dangerous. He moved closer to her. If we mated, if we created children, they would be the first pure-blooded royals born in over 200 years. Which is exactly why someone would want to make you forget, a new voice said from the doorway. A woman entered the study, tall and elegant with silver hair despite appearing only middle-aged. Elena, the pack's elder and keeper of histories. Her eyes went immediately to the twins, and her face paled. By the goddess, she whispered. The prophecy. What prophecy? Theron demanded. Elena pulled a leather-bound book from her bag, flipping through pages with trembling hands. The one I tried to tell you about 6.5 years ago, right before the lunar ceremony. The one you dismissed as superstition. She found the page she wanted and read aloud. When silver eyes are born of moon and shadow, when power long dormant awakens in innocent blood, the true king will rise or fall. Those who fear the coming change will seek to destroy the children before their purpose is revealed. Someone knew, Alara breathed. Someone knew what would happen if Theron and I mated. If we had children. And they tried to prevent it by erasing his memories, Elena confirmed. But memory spells are tricky. They can be broken by strong emotional connections, by undeniable truth, she looked at the twins, by blood calling to blood. Who? Theron's voice was lethal. Who in this pack has that kind of power? Not just power, Alpha. Access. Elena's expression turned grave. Whoever did this would have needed to be close enough to you during the ceremony to cast the spell undetected. Someone you trusted completely. Theron's gaze cut to Marcus, and his beta took a step back. No, Marcus said quickly. Alpha, I would never betray you. You know that. Do I? Theron's eyes flashed gold. Because I'm starting to realize I don't know anything anymore. A howl split the night air. Then another. And another. Kale ran to the window. There are wolves surrounding the mansion. A lot of wolves. And they don't smell like our pack. Theron was at his side in an instant, looking out at the grounds. Alara saw his jaw clench. Bloodfang pack. Our biggest rivals. How did they know we were here? Alara's voice shook. Someone told them. Theron turned to Marcus. Lock down the mansion. Get every guard to the perimeter. And find out who betrayed us. But Marcus wasn't moving. He was staring at his phone, his face ashen. Alpha, there's more. The Council of Alphas just issued an emergency summons. Someone sent them evidence of powerful wolf children with unregistered bloodlines. They're demanding the twins be brought in for testing. Testing? Alara clutched her children closer. What kind of testing? Elena's expression was grim. The kind children don't usually survive. And Alara realized with crystalline clarity that bringing her twins here, exposing the truth, had just painted targets on all their backs. The howls were getting closer. Theron's entire body vibrated with barely controlled rage as he stared out at the blood-fang wolves circling his territory like vultures. How many? 37, Kale said from beside him, his young voice eerily calm. No, wait. 42. More coming from the eastern border. Theron looked down at the 6-year-old who shared his blood, who could apparently count hostile wolves in the darkness with frightening accuracy. You can sense them all? I can hear their heartbeats. Smell their intentions. Kale's silver eyes met his. They're not here to talk. They're here to take us. Me and Lyra. Over my dead body, Theron growled. He turned to Marcus. I want barriers reinforced. Silver ammunition distributed to every guard. And I want to know how the hell Bloodfang knew these children were here. We've been inside this study for less than 20 minutes. Marcus pulled out his phone, barking orders. But something about his movements seemed off to Alara. Too practiced. Too prepared. Mama, Lyra whispered, tugging on her sleeve. The beta. His emotions changed when the howls started. He was scared before, but now he's relieved. Why would he be relieved that enemies are attacking? Alara's blood ran cold. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and saw the truth written in the slight relaxation of his shoulders, the way his fingers moved across his phone screen with just a little too much confidence. Theron, she said quietly. I think Marcus is the one who told them. Everything stopped. Theron turned slowly, his golden eyes fixing on his beta with an intensity that would have brought most wolves to their knees. Alara, choose your next words very carefully. He's relieved, Lyra said, her empathic abilities broadcasting Marcus's emotions like a radio signal. And he's been planning this for a long time. I can feel how deep his hatred goes. It's old. Really old. Marcus's expression didn't change, but Alara saw his hand drift toward the weapon at his hip. The child is mistaken, Alpha. My loyalty to you is absolute. Then show me your phone, Theron said softly. Dangerously. Of course. Marcus held it out without hesitation. Too easy. It was too easy. Elena moved faster than Alara expected for a woman her age, snatching the phone before Marcus could pull it back. She tapped the screen a few times, her face growing darker with each second. Text messages. Sent 10 minutes ago. To Alpha Royce of Bloodfang Pack. Coordinates to this mansion. Description of the twins. And, she looked up, her eyes blazing, confirmation that the memory spell on Theron was still holding. The world tilted. Theron's shift was instantaneous. One moment he was a man, the next he was a massive black wolf with eyes that burned like molten gold. He lunged at Marcus with a snarl that shook the windows. Marcus shifted mid-leap, transforming into a gray wolf that met Theron's attack with vicious precision. They collided in a tangle of fur and fangs, crashing into the desk and sending papers flying. Get the children out of here. Elena shouted at Alara. But Alara was frozen, watching her worst nightmare unfold. Because Marcus wasn't just fighting back. He was fighting with the skill of someone who'd been preparing for this confrontation for years. You want to know the truth, Alpha? Marcus's voice came out distorted through his wolf form. I've been protecting this pack from your weakness since the day you became king. I knew about the prophecy. I knew what would happen if you mated with a Moonshadow Omega. I couldn't let you create children who would overthrow everything our ancestors built. Theron slammed him into the wall hard enough to crack the stone. So you stole my memories. Made me abandon my mate. My children. I saved you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Marcus twisted free, blood dripping from his maw. Those children are abominations. Freaks of nature with too much power. They'll destroy the pack structure. Upset the balance. And I won't let that happen. Kale stepped forward, his small body beginning to glow with silver light. You're the one who's been watching us. At school. At the apartment. Mama thought we were being paranoid, but I could always feel someone tracking us. Smart boy. Marcus's lips pulled back in a grotesque smile. I've been waiting for your powers to manifest. Waiting for proof that you were exactly as dangerous as I feared. And now that proof is surrounded by 42 bloodfang wolves who are very eager to collect the bounty on your heads. Bounty? Alara's voice cracked. 5 million per child, dead or alive. Though preferably dead. Marcus shifted back to human form, not bothering to cover his nakedness. Blood ran down his shoulder where Theron had bitten him. I made sure the council and every rival pack knew about them. By morning, there will be hundreds of wolves hunting your precious twins. You can't protect them all, Alpha. You're not strong enough. But we are, Kale said quietly. The temperature in the room plummeted. Frost spread across the windows. The fireplace exploded with silver flames that didn't burn the furniture but made the air crackle with raw power. Lyra joined her brother, her own silver light merging with his. You hurt our mama. You hurt our father. You tried to destroy our family before we even existed. And now, Kale's voice dropped into something ancient and terrible, you're going to tell us exactly how to break the memory spell. Or we'll tear the information straight from your mind. Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow. You're 6 years old. You don't have that kind of power. Don't we? Lyra tilted her head, and Marcus screamed. He fell to his knees, clutching his temples. Stop. What are you doing? Reading you, Lyra said simply. All of you. Every memory. Every secret. Every lie. Her eyes glowed brighter. Oh. Oh, this is bad. What? Theron demanded, shifting back to human form. What did you see? He's not alone. Lyra's voice trembled. There are others. In the pack. In the council. They've been planning this for years. Since before Mama and you met. They knew the prophecy. They knew that if pure-blooded royal children were ever born, everything would change. Change how? Elena asked urgently. Kale's eyes had gone distant, accessing Marcus's memories alongside his sister. The old laws. The ones that were buried and forgotten. They say that when silver-eyed twins are born from moon and shadow bloodlines, they can challenge any alpha for leadership. Not through combat. Through birthright. They become the true heirs to all wolf territories. Silence fell like a hammer. You mean, Theron said slowly, my children could claim leadership over every pack in North America? Not just North America, Marcus spat, still writhing under Lyra's mental assault. Everywhere. Every pack. Every territory. The prophecy says they'll unite all wolves under one banner. Destroy the territories. Eliminate the alpha hierarchy. Create some kind of utopian wolf society where bloodline doesn't matter. And you couldn't allow that, Alara breathed. Because you're beta. In a world without strict hierarchy, you'd lose everything. We'd all lose everything. Marcus snarled. The strong would no longer rule. The weak would rise up. It would be chaos. Or it would be fair, Kale said quietly, and released his hold on Marcus's mind. The beta collapsed, gasping. Theron stood over him, his expression colder than Alara had ever seen. The memory spell. How do I break it? True mate's kiss, Elena said before Marcus could answer. It's the only thing powerful enough to shatter memory magic of this magnitude. She looked meaningfully at Alara. If you and Theron are true mates, if the bond was real that night, then it should restore everything. Alara's heart hammered. 6 years. 6 years of rejection and shame and loneliness. And now she was supposed to just kiss him and hope everything would magically fix itself? But the howls outside were getting closer. The bloodfang wolves were at the gates. And her children were watching her with those impossibly knowing silver eyes. Do it, Theron said, moving toward her. If there's any chance I can remember, if I can access the full power of the mate bond, we'll need it to survive what's coming. Alara stood on shaking legs. And if it doesn't work? Then we fight anyway. Theron cupped her face in his hands, and despite everything, despite the years of pain, her body remembered his touch. But I think it will work. Because standing here, looking at you, looking at them, I feel something. Like a ghost of a memory trying to break through. He leaned in, and Alara closed her eyes. Their lips met, and the world exploded into light. The memories hit Theron like a tidal wave. He saw everything. Felt everything. The moment he'd found Alara crying by the moonlit creek, her tears silver in the darkness. The way his heart had recognized hers before his mind could catch up. The mate bond snapping into place with such force it had driven him to his knees. He remembered kissing her. Claiming her. Whispering promises against her skin that he'd meant with every fiber of his being. And then he remembered the betrayal. Marcus appearing from the shadows with 3 other wolves. The witch they'd hired, her hands glowing with dark magic. Alara screaming his name as they held him down. The spell burning through his mind like acid, erasing her face, her scent, the feeling of completeness he'd finally found. The last thing he'd seen before the memories vanished was Alara's devastated expression as he looked at her with blank, unknowing eyes. Theron broke the kiss, gasping for air. Rage unlike anything he'd ever known flooded his veins. You watched, he snarled at Marcus, who was still crumpled on the floor. You watched them destroy my mate bond and did nothing. I orchestrated it, Marcus wheezed. Someone had to save you from yourself. Theron's hands shifted into claws. He would have torn Marcus apart right there if the mansion's walls hadn't suddenly shuddered from impact. They're breaking through the barriers, Elena said, looking out the window. The Bloodfang wolves brought a battering ram. And reinforcements. I count over 100 now. We need to evacuate, Theron said, his alpha instincts overriding his need for vengeance. He turned to Alara, really seeing her for the first time in 6 years. His mate. The mother of his children. The Omega he'd abandoned because of lies. I'm so sorry. For everything. I should have fought harder. Should have questioned the gaps in my memory. We don't have time for apologies, Alara said, though tears streamed down her face. We need to protect Kale and Lyra. The tunnels, Elena suggested. The old escape routes beneath the mansion. They lead to the forest, miles from here. Theron shook his head. They'll have those routes monitored. Marcus would have told them everything. He looked at his beta with pure hatred. Wouldn't you? Marcus smiled through bloody teeth. Every entrance. Every exit. Every weakness in your defenses. You're trapped, Alpha. And when Bloodfang breaks through those doors, they'll take the children and kill everyone who tries to stop them. A window exploded inward. Glass rained down as a massive wolf, larger than any Alara had seen, crashed into the study. Alpha Royce of Bloodfang pack, his fur the color of dried blood, his eyes yellow with malice. He shifted mid-landing, standing naked and unashamed. Alpha King Theron. How generous of you to gather all my prizes in one room. Theron moved faster than thought, placing himself between Royce and his family. You're trespassing on Shadowmoon territory. Leave now or face execution. Royce laughed. You're outnumbered 10 to 1. Your guards are already falling. And your precious Marcus has been feeding me information for years. Did you know he promised me 20% of Shadowmoon lands in exchange for helping him eliminate the royal twins? His eyes found Kale and Lyra. But I think I'll keep the children instead. That bounty is far more valuable than territory. You'll have to go through me first, Theron growled. Gladly. They collided in a blur of violence. But even as Theron fought with everything he had, Alara could see more Bloodfang wolves pouring through the broken window. The study was becoming a war zone. Elena grabbed Alara's arm. Get the children out. Now. There's a servant's passage behind that bookshelf. It leads to the kitchens. From there, you can reach the garage. What about you? I'll buy you time. Elena's eyes began to glow silver, revealing power Alara hadn't known the elder possessed. I'm older than I look, child. And I've been waiting a very long time for the prophecy to unfold. I won't let it end here. Alara wanted to argue, but Lyra screamed. Marcus had grabbed her, one arm wrapped around her throat, a silver blade pressed to her temple. Nobody moves, or the girl dies. Cale's roar shook the foundations. Power exploded from him, raw and uncontrolled. Every light in the mansion burst. The floor cracked. Wolves on both sides yelped in pain as the psychic wave hit them. But Marcus held firm. Call off your son, or I slit her throat. Cale, stop. Elara shouted. Her son froze, his small body trembling with barely leashed power. Let my sister go. Not until Alpha Royce has both of you secured. Marcus's blade drew a thin line of blood on Lyra's neck. You're too dangerous to live. The prophecy ends tonight. Theron tried to reach them, but 3 blood-fang wolves blocked his path. Royce laughed, watching the Alpha King struggle against inferior opponents while his own beta held his daughter hostage. This is poetic, Royce said. The great Alpha King, brought down by betrayal from within. Just like his father before him. Theron went very still. What did you say? Oh, Marcus didn't tell you that part? Royce's smile was vicious. Why do you think he hates the prophecy so much? His father was beta to your father. And when the last prophecy came, when there was a chance for true change in the wolf world, Marcus's father helped orchestrate your father's assassination to prevent it. The revelation hit like a physical blow. Elara watched comprehension dawn on Theron's face. The hunting accident that killed my parents wasn't an accident. Nothing is ever an accident, Marcus hissed. My father understood what your father refused to see. That the old bloodlines, the pure bloodlines, are dangerous. They make wolves believe in destiny and fate instead of strength and hierarchy. Your father was going to dissolve the territories, unite all packs under one banner of equality. My father stopped him. Just like I'll stop your mongrel children. The blade pressed deeper. Lyra whimpered. And Cale snapped. The power that erupted from the 6-year-old boy was nothing short of apocalyptic. Every wolf in the room was thrown backward by an invisible force. The walls cracked. The ceiling began to crumble. Marcus's grip on Lyra loosened just enough for her to twist free. But in the chaos, Royce moved with predatory speed. He grabbed both twins, one in each massive arm, and leaped through the broken window. No. Elara screamed. Theron was already shifting, already racing after them. But bloodfang wolves swarmed him, dragging him down through sheer numbers. Elara ran to the window in time to see Royce disappearing into the forest with her children. Cale was fighting, his small fists glowing with power. Lyra was screaming for her mother. Then they were gone, swallowed by darkness and enemy territory. Elena appeared at Elara's side, blood running from a cut on her forehead. We have to go after them. We can't. Marcus's voice came from behind them. He was surrounded by what remained of the bloodfang wolves, his expression triumphant despite his injuries. The moment you step off this property, you'll be in bloodfang territory. They'll kill you on sight. Then I'll die trying, Elara snarled. You'll die uselessly. Marcus gestured to Theron, who was pinned beneath 5 wolves, silver chains being wrapped around his wrists. Your mate will be executed for harboring unregistered royal bloodlines. You'll be executed as a conspirator. And your children will be sold to the highest bidder. The council has already issued the warrant. The council works for you, Elena spat. The council works for stability. And I've convinced them that these children represent chaos. Marcus smiled. It's over, Elara. You lost the moment you decided to tell the truth. Elara looked at Theron, chained and bleeding but still fighting. Looked at Elena, ancient and powerful but outnumbered. Looked at the empty space where her children had been just moments ago. And she made a decision that would either save them all or destroy her completely. You're right, she said quietly. I can't fight you. I'm just an omega. Weak. Powerless. Alone. She walked toward Marcus, her head bowed in submission. He smiled, victorious. Finally, you see reason. Elara stopped 3 feet away. Then she looked up, and her eyes were no longer brown. They were silver. Pure, blazing silver. But I'm not powerless, she whispered. I'm a moonshadow. And you just took my children. The shift that overtook her was nothing like a normal transformation. Her wolf form erupted in silver light, larger than any Omega had a right to be, power radiating from her in waves that made even the blood-fang wolves whimper. Because the Moonshadow line hadn't been hidden just to preserve their bloodline. They'd been hidden because when a Moonshadow Omega's children were threatened, she became the most dangerous creature in existence. And Marcus had just made the fatal mistake of finding that out firsthand. Alara's wolf form blazed like a living star. She didn't remember moving, only that Marcus was suddenly beneath her claws, screaming as silver light burned through his defenses. The bloodfang wolves scattered, their instincts overriding their orders when faced with ancient Omega power they'd only heard about in legends. Alara, stop. Theron's voice cut through her rage. We need him alive. He's the only one who knows where Royce is taking the twins. The words penetrated the haze of fury. Alara's wolf hesitated, jaws inches from Marcus's throat. Please, Theron said more softly. The silver chains had broken during her transformation, snapped by the shockwave of her power. He approached slowly, carefully, his golden eyes meeting her silver ones. I know you want to kill him. So do I. But our children need us thinking clearly. Alara shifted back, her body trembling with adrenaline. Marcus lay bleeding at her feet, his eyes wide with terror. The bloodfang compound, he gasped. Royce is taking them to his compound. 50 miles north. But you'll never get there in time. He's delivering them to the council representatives at dawn. 3 hours from now. Elena checked her watch. He's right. Even at full speed, we'd never make it through bloodfang territory before sunrise. Then we don't go through it. Theron's expression turned calculating. We go under it. The old underground river system that connects all the territories. My father showed me the entrance when I was young. Those tunnels haven't been used in decades, Elena protested. They could be collapsed. Flooded. There are only chance. Theron looked at Alara, and she saw everything in his eyes. Love. Regret. Determination. I lost 6 years with you. With them. I won't lose another second. Something warm bloomed in Alara's chest despite the fear. Then let's go get our children back. Elena moved quickly, gathering supplies while Theron rallied what remained of his loyal guards. 12 wolves total, the ones who hadn't been compromised by Marcus's conspiracy. Bind him, Theron ordered, gesturing to Marcus. When we return, he faces trial for treason. They left Marcus chained in the ruined study and descended into the mansion's lowest level, where a hidden door led to tunnels carved from living stone. The air was thick with moisture and the scent of ancient earth. Theron led the way, his alpha senses navigating the darkness. Alara stayed close, her newly awakened power humming beneath her skin. She could feel it now, the legacy of the Moonshadow line. Strength. Speed. And something else, a connection to all Omegas who'd ever fought to protect their young. The bond, Theron said quietly as they ran. I can feel it now. The mate bond. It's like a compass pointing toward you. I never stopped feeling it, Alara admitted. Even when you denied me. Even when everyone said I was crazy. I knew you were mine. And I'm so sorry I couldn't remember. His voice cracked. The things I said to you. The way I looked through you like you were nothing. You were spelled. Manipulated. Alara grabbed his hand, their fingers intertwining as they raced through the tunnels. We can process the trauma later. Right now, we save our babies. A howl echoed through the tunnels. Then another. The sound was distant but unmistakable. Kale and Lyra, calling for their parents. They're alive, Alara breathed. And they're fighting. Of course they are. Theron's smile was fierce and proud. They're ours. The tunnels opened into a cavern beneath the bloodfang compound just as the first rays of dawn painted the sky. Theron held up his hand, signaling the group to stop. Above them, through cracks in the stone ceiling, they could hear voices. Footsteps. And 2 small heartbeats that made Alara's wolf howl with recognition. 12 guards stationed around the holding cells, Theron whispered after listening carefully. Royce is in the main chamber with 3 council representatives. The twins are separated. Kale in the east cell, Lyra in the west. Divided to weaken them, Elena murmured. Classic strategy against bonded siblings. It won't work. Alara's eyes blazed silver. I can feel their power even from here. They're scared, but they're not broken. Theron's expression turned deadly. On my signal, we strike fast and hard. Priority 1 is getting the children out. Everything else is secondary. The 12 loyal guards nodded, shifting into wolf forms. Alara, Theron caught her arm before she could shift. When we get up there, stay close to me. Let the bond guide us. Together, we're stronger than anything they can throw at us. She kissed him fiercely. Together. They burst through the cavern floor like an explosion of fur and fury. The Bloodfang guards didn't stand a chance. Theron's wolves were outnumbered, but they fought with the desperation of parents rescuing their young. Alara tore through opponents with strength that shocked even her, the moonshadow power making her unstoppable. She reached the east cell first. Kale sat in the corner, his small body covered in bruises but his silver eyes burning with undiminished defiance. Mama! He ran to the bars. They tried to put magic suppressors on us, but Lyra made the witch's brain hurt until she stopped. Alara ripped the cell door off its hinges. Where's your sister? Here. Lyra's voice came from across the compound. Theron had already freed her, holding his daughter against his chest while fighting off 2 Bloodfang wolves with his free hand. Royce appeared in the main doorway, his massive form blocking their escape. You're too late, Alpha King. The council has already ruled. The children are to be executed at sunrise as threats to pack stability. Over my dead body, Theron snarled, passing Lyra to Elena and stepping forward. That can be arranged. They clashed in the center of the compound, 2 alphas fighting with everything they had. But Theron was fueled by 6 years of stolen memories, by the rage of a father protecting his children, by the strength of a mate bond finally restored. He was magnificent. And he was winning. But then one of the council representatives, an ancient alpha named Corvus, raised his hand. Enough. I've seen what I came to see. Everyone froze. Corvus approached the twins, who stood together now, their hands clasped, silver light connecting them. He studied them for a long moment, then looked at Theron and Alara. The prophecy is real, he said quietly. I can feel it in their presence. The old magic. The pure bloodlines. He turned to the other council members. These children are not threats. They are hope. You can't be serious, one representative sputtered. They could overthrow the entire pack structure. Perhaps it's time the structure changed, Corvus replied. I'm old enough to remember what we lost when we chose hierarchy over unity. When we let fear guide us instead of wisdom. He knelt before Kale and Lyra. I vote to recognize these children as legitimate heirs to the Blackwood throne. And I propose we begin negotiations to restore the old ways, before territories divided us. The words hung in the air like a bell's toll. Royce lunged for the twins, unwilling to accept defeat. And Kale and Lyra, together, unleashed their full power for the first time. The silver light that erupted from them was blinding. When it faded, Royce lay unconscious, every Bloodfang wolf had submitted, and the compound's walls were inscribed with glowing symbols in a language older than memory. The prophecy, written in light, undeniable and true. 3 months later, the Shadow Moon mansion gleamed with life it hadn't seen in generations. Alara stood on the balcony overlooking the training grounds, watching Theron teach Kale and Lyra how to control their powers. Her son's elemental manipulation had grown stronger, more focused. Her daughter's empathic abilities now helped council pack members through disputes instead of overwhelming her with their emotions. They were thriving. Finally. You're smiling, Elena said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of tea. It suits you better than all those years of sadness. I never thought this was possible. Alara accepted the cup gratefully. A real family. Acceptance. Peace. The council's ruling helped. Elena sipped her tea. Officially recognizing the twins as royal heirs, exposing Marcus's conspiracy, it changed everything. 5 other packs have already reached out about unity negotiations. Below, Theron caught Lyra as she leaped into his arms, both of them laughing. The sound made Alara's heart swell. He's a different person now, she observed. The memories coming back, it freed something in him. Love does that. Elena smiled knowingly. Speaking of which, have you two discussed the mating ceremony? Elara's cheeks flushed. We've been busy. The pack restructuring, the twins training, the political negotiations. Excuses. Elena nudged her gently. That man looks at you like you hung the moon. And you've been sleeping in separate rooms for 3 months like this is some Victorian novel. Put him out of his misery. As if summoned by their conversation, Theron appeared in the doorway, his golden eyes finding Elara immediately. The mate bond hummed between them, stronger every day. Can I steal you for a moment? He asked. Elena shooed her away with a knowing grin. Theron led Elara to the creek where they'd first met, now decorated with thousands of moonflowers. Her breath caught. 6.5 years ago, I found you here crying, Theron said softly, taking her hands. I told you that you mattered. That you were seen. But then I forgot, and I made you invisible all over again. His voice roughened with emotion. I can't give you back those lost years. Can't erase the pain I caused. But I can promise you every day forward. He knelt, pulling out a ring that glowed with the same silver light as their children's eyes. Elara Moonshadowthorn, will you officially become my mate? My queen? My everything? Tears streamed down her face. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The kiss they shared was witnessed by their children, who'd crept close to watch. By Elena, who wiped away happy tears. By the pack members who'd once shunned Elara but now cheered for their future queen. 2 weeks later, under the full moon, Elara and Theron completed the mating ceremony. The bond that snapped into place was so powerful it lit up the entire territory in silver light. Kale and Lyra stood as witnesses, their hands clasped, their purpose clear. They would unite the packs, yes. But more importantly, they would grow up knowing they were loved, wanted, and celebrated. Marcus watched from his prison cell as the festivities continued, his conspiracy in ruins, his legacy one of betrayal and failure. And in the mansion's grand hall, Elara danced with her mate, her children, her pack, finally home after years of exile. The prophecy had come true. Not through destruction, but through love. Not through power alone, but through family. And the twins with silver eyes would grow to change the wolf world forever, raised by parents who'd fought heaven and hell to be together. The future was bright. The future was theirs. Thank you so much for watching, my beautiful pack. What did you think of this story? Did it give you all the feels? Let me know in the comments below. And if you loved this journey of love, rejection, and redemption, smash that like button and subscribe for more amazing werewolf shifter romances. Until next time, keep believing in true love and second chances. See you in the next story.